Heavy is the head that has to manage all of this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel.
We're now incentivized to buy what we already buy.
Fumbling through college had me building.
I also got some done on the other side.
And that was right around, I would say, May, maybe, right before renewing the lease for this property.
Welcome to the channel, Martha.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, I was going to say, I am getting up in their names, I'll tell you what.
Bills paid by other people, life was never this good. I had to step back, knowing that it's...
If you are single in America, there is zero excuse to be broke. So I had one of my colleagues reach out to me today, and they asked me, where should I buy? They're currently in New York, and they're thinking, man, buying in the city is pretty expensive. I need something for $1,800, $1,600 a month that I can be paying a mortgage on and growing my net worth. And I told this person, I said, well, you're single. I wouldn't necessarily look in New Jersey area. Maybe I would look in Staten Island. They're in their 30s. I figured you might even be able to move into like a just slightly out of the college town environment, but not downtown, because obviously that would be expensive. And be able to look for multiple rooms, rent them out, and go from there, right? If you can get your living costs to under, I don't know, $1,000 a month, while putting some of that towards the actual principal of the home, and you're able to start saving and investing well because you found a job out there before moving, it would make all the sense in the world. You understand? But we are in tough times. And honestly, I've always felt like, for the most part, outside of the COVID year, it can be difficult to find a job, right? People have to boost up their resumes. They're doing resume builders. They're going to different classes in order to improve skill sets. They're going back to school because their workforce or their job may have been eliminated completely. You understand? We live in a world where things continue to evolve. AI is coming quickly, and there are soon going to be no need for certain services. I know plenty of services that I'm currently offering to clients that are already AI automated. And so the more and more that is automated is the less need for the people that are directing them to these said services. And so with that being said, I am completely aware that in order to continue to prosper, you have to have consistency. You have to be consistent. And that is not only in the jobs that you work, but also in the paycheck that's coming in or the checks that are coming in. And so I've always looked at passive income flows like the stock market, dividend paying ETFs and stocks. Why? Because I can measure the growth of those companies and I can see the dividend income coming in. I used to have notifications on my phone where like almost every single day I would wake up, I would be notified, dividend hit my account, dividends hit my account, dividends hit my account. I haven't had that notification for like 2 years now, but when I look and I see all those dividends just hitting the account, it's like, wow. I mean, it's just almost surprising how rapidly those start to increase. And so, you know, I'm actually going to take account of my stocks now because all I've been looking at is the growth of the portfolio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate how much dividends am I actually receiving month over month and see where I'm at now. I know I kind of give you guys like a yearly review every year, but I'm kind of curious now. Where is my dividend portfolio at and how much dividends am I receiving every single month? If you have a dividend stock paying portfolio, drop down how much dividends you're receiving every single month from that portfolio. I remember when I used to receive less than $1. My goal was $1 a day. And then when I got to $30 a month, my goal was then $50 a month because I wanted to be able to pay my phone bill with that money. So the $30 a day, the $30 a month was first because I wanted to make sure that every day I made $1. And so that's why I had the passive income from my dividend portfolio. Every day I would make $1. I said if worse came to worse, if I had to be stripped down and I had nothing, no job, no income, no nothing, I would at least make $1 a day and be able to go to McDonald's and get me something on the dollar menu And being in New York, they would let me go without paying the taxes. You understand? Before you're a billionaire, you got to think like billionaires. You don't pay. No, I'm joking. Pay your taxes. But and then I'll be able to eat at least one meal a day because of my dividend income. And so when I upgraded from that and elevated from that, I forget how much money that took. Maybe it was like $10,000, $7,000. It depends on how you structure your portfolio. If you have high dividend yield stocks, of course that's going to require less money in order to reach that threshold. But I wanted to grow consistently. I wanted growth stocks that I wanted growth dividend paying stocks. Everybody knows that's my motto. That's what I call it. That's the term that I keyed for what I do in the stock market. And so when I hit that goal, the next goal was, hey, I need to be able to pay my phone bill. So that's $50. I believe it was a $30 plan that I had, but $50 a month. When you hit that goal, then the next goal was I need to not only be able to pay my phone bill, but I need to be able to eat at least one meal a day. So that means I needed $50 plus the $30 because now I would be able to access my phone and I'd be able to pull that $1 out in order to go to McDonald's. Made sense, right? So how much did that cost? About $80 in dividends monthly. So when I hit $80 in dividends monthly, I was now at a goal where I'm like, wow, I can literally survive. Plain and simple, just survive off of $80 a month in dividend income. Now, of course, everybody likes round numbers, and so the next number was 100. And so I'm going to have to count my portfolio and see if I'm actually getting $100 in dividends month over month over month. I will say that my portfolio is the largest that it's ever been in the stock market, so this tops it all. Now, I do own a lot of Tesla in my portfolio. I already know I lost a few subscribers just saying that. But I do own a lot of Tesla in my portfolio. I believe it's almost over 10% of my portfolio. So it is doing pretty well. And for my portfolio, yeah, that's a few $1,000s, a couple of $1,000 just in Tesla. And so that's not going to pay me a dividend stock. So we have to account for some of the stocks that I have in my portfolio that don't pay a dividend. But back to my main point is it's super, super hard to survive because we have to remain consistent. And in being consistent, you have to understand that you have to set levels to this for yourself. So for me, the levels that I set were consistently making sure that I paid down my mortgages, that I always pay on time, my utilities, everything that is included in the monthly hassles of life. It can be hectic. It can be hectic when you're getting slammed with mortgages, payments, water bills, utility bills, gas, electric. You got car notes, you got food, you got, whatever it is, whether it's dates, books, whatever it is that brings you some sort semblance of joy, family, all that, children, right? You have to account for all of that. And then all of the other miscellaneous expenses within your life. And so as you trickle down to all those things, and then what comes last on the list, at least as a priority for me, some people prioritize this more than others, but it'll be the vacations, it'll be the going out to eat or party or do whatever it is that they do with others, right? And so when you start to label those priorities for yourself and understand, hey, where it is that I want to be, where it is that I want to go, then having that structure is going to neatly identify every single thing that you're looking for and every single thing that you're looking to accomplish. And so for me, I used to literally have a plan of where everything went and how much I would spend when I went out and all of that. And it was pretty loose in my spending budget because I already was accounting for what I would normally do. And so it was not very hard for me to stick to that plan. However, for others, they may deviate from that process because they start to do things out of order. So for example, before you start to invest, you should obviously have a savings And so every single time somebody says, hey, I want to get into the stock market, I want to do this and that, especially if they're so accustomed to spending more than what they have, it's very imperative that you have a savings, right? Because if you're not with a savings, what the first thing you're going to do is pull from those investments, and investments are not something that you pull from. And so breaking those bad habits or those cycles that constantly continue is first and foremost paramount. And also not getting comfortable, especially when you have savings, because a lot of the times people get comfortable. When you have $0 in your bank account, you'll be so surprised how quickly you can get $500, $1,000 in your bank account and hold it there and save it there. But everybody has that comfortable spot that they get to where it's no longer just them saving money or putting that same amount away. They start to get a little lackadaisical. Maybe they chill out. Maybe it's time for a vacation. Maybe it's time for whatever the case may be, because they hit that threshold and the work hard button just went off, right? The work hard button went off and it's time for vacation. And so we all get like that sometimes. I had to break that for myself. I remember those numbers that I used to hit that would make me say, oh, I don't need to go as hard in this area and this component of my life. And so when you start to look at things from the mindset of, no, I can break past that, I can do better than that. When you start seeing the same number over and over and over again, and you're like, why can't I go above that? That's when you'll start to break through, and that's when you'll start to see how far you can really go and what you can really achieve when you really start to dive into your financial situation. I got tired of seeing the same numbers in my bank account. I wanted more for myself. And I was grateful that I was able to break that mentality, even though it took me about 3 years to break that mentality. And so with that being said, it's very important to lower costs. Lower costs is very important. So if you're able to lower costs, you do it. I remember when I was in college, even though it wasn't the best situation, I was able to have a room where the cost would never increase as long as I was there. You did have to pay utilities, you did have to pay for internet, and obviously you have to pay for your own groceries and things of that nature when you move off campus. But there was a consistency there that if I wanted to, I could have stayed in that situation and continued my career. I could have continued to pay such a low cost for living that it may not have even been advantageous for me to buy a home. I can tell you that my costs all together, utilities and everything, probably didn't cost me no more than $700 a month. And even though I lived in such a tiny, tiny spot, I can promise you, like, if I just kept that situation, I mean, there's no telling, like, where you would be, because now I'm investing the difference in the stock market, investing the difference into other areas of my life, to where it'll just continue to multiply exponentially. Just like real estate, just like the stock market, it's whatever you feed, whatever vehicle you feed will just continue to grow. And again, that's that consistency that is necessary. And so when we talk about consistency, it's not necessarily consistency at one job unless it's offering you something that you can absolutely not refuse, right? Because I've went from a different job to a different job, but what I've been consistent at is earning the same, if not better, income every single year. So when that tax return comes around, it's showing, hey, I continue to make this amount regardless of the situations that I put myself in or the situations that I happen to be a part of, right? And so I've never seen a dip in my income levels. And a lot of that has to do with my education. A lot of that has to do with my experience. A lot of that has to do with the industries that I know that I can fall back on at any time that would be willing to hire me on the spot. Like, if you're someone who is aware of the restaurant industry and how brutal it can be, if I ever needed a fallback plan, I know that I can fall back in the restaurant industry, the restaurant management industry, and be making at least $65,000 as a general manager. And so because I know I can fall back on that, I know that I can at least maintain my lifestyle, because my lifestyle costs about $50,000 a year, bare minimum, just to live, just to literally survive. Okay, based on what I have and what I've accumulated over time. Now, can I drop that lifestyle down even further? Absolutely, because a lot of that includes investments, savings that I'm making, and also principal pay down. That is absolutely ridiculous how much I'm paying it down. And so I can absolutely drop that $50,000 threshold so much more so. But I like keeping that balance because I know that I'm growing my net worth. I know that I'm growing my investments. I know that I'm just growing overall. And that's just going to lead to more options for me financially, less stress, and more financial freedom. Because yes, people have freedom, but you can have even more freedom. And there is something to say about having more freedom. See, when you go on vacation, that's a semblance of freedom. When you can go on vacation for 2-3 months, that's a greater semblance of freedom. When you can go on vacation for the rest of your life, but you choose to work or you choose not to work, regardless of the case, that is just more freedom. And then people will have other ideas of what freedom truly is for them, but for me, freedom is the ability to say, hey, I don't need to be here. And if I decide to, I'm out of there. Like, that's freedom to me. Freedom is my ability to say, listen, regardless of what's going on, I'm okay. And that is absolutely the facts. That is absolutely the truth. No matter what is going on, I am okay. And I love that for me. So if you want that type of consistency, if you want that type of financial discipline, you have to understand that you're going to have to be consistent in your habits. You're going to have to be consistent in your life. You're going to have to wake up for you every single day because nobody else is going to do that for you. Now, if you like this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You know I post on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify for podcasters, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Peace.